By the name of my God, whom is only God of his true prophets. My name is Sayyid Muhammad Ali Miraji, and as long as I am alive, I am God's only true prophet, and there is no other than. This is my second speech. In my first speech, I have introduced myself as God only prophet. I have explained what makes me a true God prophet and others who claim to be a prophet, either mentally sick, a liar, or a false prophet. This speech is about God prophets too. In this speech, I talk about biblical prophets. Many know Abraham, King David, Solomon as God's true prophets. In this speech, I am to prove neither Abraham nor King David or Solomon were God prophets at all. As well, against Bible and Quran, I am to mention Lot, nephew of Abraham, as God's true prophet of his time, and not his uncle Abraham. Finally, in this speech, I am to talk about Abrahamism. What is Abrahamism? What does it say? And what is wrong with it? Samuelism is exact opposite of Abrahamism. So we talk about that too. But there is something that you should remember, and that is that Samuelism has started as Samuelism by Samuel the prophet himself, and but has got corrupted and all the way nearly, and has got ended as another proof to show Abrahamism being the best way, or the only way, and not Samuelism. If I want to clear difference of Samuelism and Abrahamism, I have to bring a very rude, harsh example. Let's look at, there is a group of men, and there is a beautiful woman among them. Abrahamists say, if you guys cooperate, we can fear her, fool her to trust us, and allow us to decide for her. Then we can, one by one, decide for her and have sex with her and abuse her as we wish, without allowing her to get able to stand on her feet enough to resist us. While Samuelists say, look at her beauty, she is the prettiest, we should protect her. If our young king see her, he fall in love with her, and she can become our queen. Yes, we should get her, become our queen. This is two different things. And here who you think is that beautiful woman expect God and his prophet. Abrahamism and Samuelism are of most important subjects and basic strategy of religion, and that make this speech long, and I divided it to some 15-minute parts because YouTube does not allow more than 15 minutes, and I have named it speech 2 part 1, speech 2 part 2, or Abrahamism part 1, Abrahamism part 2, and so on. So I start the speech by three good sayings that I want later to build my speech upon them, and use them as a measure to measure Abrahamism. First saying is from my grandfather. He was uneducated, but he was a very wise man. My grandfather used to say, when you put fundament of something, if you put the first stone wrong, that wrong will follow you in every step of the way. And regardless of how high you build over that wrong stone, it ends wrong as it first done. And one day that wrong make the whole building to fall. So here, we are not only going to put our fundament for future right, but also we have to discover which stone was wrong in history of a religion. That we are where we are now, we can see where we are now. Second saying is from Jesus. Jesus said, build on rock and stone, on something which holds what you build on. Because whatever you build on beach sand won't hold, won't be strong enough to hold what you build on. So Jesus means if we are to build, we should build on right and strong, and not wrong and weak. In this speech, I am to show that disappointedly, Bible has built on wrong and weak with Abrahamism. And as well, maybe what is introduced as Abrahamism was not to build on, was a sort of protest against Abrahamism. This is what that I come later and talk about that. Third saying is from Jesus too. Jesus said about a guy who was to travel and gave his money to 3 of his trustees to keep it for him. He gave the money to 3 people in equal portions. When he came back and wanted his money back, one had used the money as capital and made a lot of money with that. He said, here is your money and here is what I made with it. Second one had done the same. He had used the money to make money, but he did not make as much money as the another. The third one, or the last one, had graved the money to keep it safe, to keep no one touch it or something like that, and he gave the money as it was. Jesus said the first one is the best, the second one is all right too, but the third one that has graved the money, he is totally right, because he wasted the money. In this speech, I am to say what sort of money or value we had at Abraham's. And now we are back. As we see, we are here, in front of you. Let's see what have you done with our money. Did you make more money with our money for us? If so, where is it? Why I can't see it? Did you grave it? Did you lost it? What have you done? We had money at Abraham's does not say anything understandable maybe to many people. So let's clear what sort of money or value I'm talking about here that we had gave to Abraham. To do so, we should first clear whom is God true prophet and whom is not. What is necessary and make someone to born as a God prophet and others not. What has made someone like Moses, Muhammad to get born as a prophet? Bible in a story of Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and David and Solomon, say first, there is always a next prophet after his father prophet. Second, among children of a prophet, the next prophet is the youngest child, or the last child of prophet. As Joseph, Solomon, or Seth were all youngest child of their fathers. I myself am last child of my father too. If you want to know why the last child become a prophet and not the firstborn, there is so many things about this firstborn and so on, in Bible. It is because normally prophets get his firstborn when he's very young. Maybe he is under 25 and he got his firstborn. And when he reached 40, child is 15 too. And he's a prophet too. And now we have two prophets, a father prophet and a son prophet at the same time. Case of prophets is that God changed the weather, changed what goes on in earth after his prophet and what goes with or around his prophet. Now when there is two prophets, it does not go, because the rainy weather fit one of the prophet, the sunny weather fit another prophet. It is a conflict, it is, so it does not go. But if the child, the next prophet, be youngest child, the last child of prophet, soon his father die and God of word become him, and what he desires and what goes around him. So that is why it is always the last child and not the firstborn. But after getting clear about there was and there is always a live prophet after his prophet father in earth, and he is youngest son of his prophet father. In other words, since Adam, since Noah, and since Abraham and Moses, there come 100 prophets, generation after generation, father after son after father. Now let's look back. Moses wrote the first 4 books of Bible 3,000 years ago, and the story of Abraham belonged to 4,000 years ago. In other words, since Abraham until now, there was 100 of prophets whom God born, lived and left their youngest child as next prophet for us. It is while in Bible it is mentioned only a handful of them, So what happened to the rest? So what happened to these 4,000 years? Bible even lie, and say you were in bondage and we send you a prophet, a deliverer, as in Ten Commandments movie said. In other words, Bible lie. There was always a son prophet after his father prophet. After Joseph the prophet, there was a son, after his son, there was a son, and so until Moses. So suddenly all this got eaten, and we gave you Moses, And each of these sons could be a Joseph, could be a Solomon. And each of them had capability of becoming greater prophet, like Moses himself, like Jesus or Son Muhammad, What is needed to become a great prophet is mostly a great God And God is always great, and He was always the greatest. So we could have many Moses, we could have many Muhammad, we could have many Jesus. When we read Bible, there is talk about son after father prophets until Joseph. All the prophet is written until Joseph, who was father and who was his son, who was the next prophet, and so on, until Joseph. The line of prophecy gets lost from Joseph to Moses. And Moses gets sent as a deliverer, and so on and so on. After Moses again, line of prophecy gets lost until Samuel. In other words, children of Israel practiced something which disabled the prophets both before and after Moses. It is the case. Prophets were normally the main character. Terah, father of Abraham, was the main character, as it's written in the Bible. Jacob of Israel was the main character, and his son Joseph, and so David and Solomon. Even Jeremiah was the main character. Except at Abraham time, Abraham was oldest son of Terah, so he could not be the prophet, the firstborn of Terah, the firstborn of prophet Terah. He does not become a prophet. But the last one, who was the last one? Haran was the last one. Haran was father of Lot. And Haran got killed. They killed Haran and his son Lot remained of him. And Lot was a child, and Abraham take him, and they escaped together, they moved from those areas. But who was the prophet? That was the Lot. It was not his uncle Abraham. It is what that Bible has stolen prophetic title of Lot and gave it to Abraham, only because he was head of family. Lot was not a low-level prophet, you can say too. Lot was the one that God at his time has destroyed city of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is one of the biggest, one of the proud of Bible, that we have miracle. What miracle you have? Nothing. City of Gomorrah and city of Sodom were enemy of our Lot, and God has destroyed. They mention the miracle as an Abraham miracle, not as a Lot the prophet miracle. It is a crime. It is a big crime to steal a prophecy of someone and give it to another one, and steal his miracle and give it to another one. I must keep that 15 minutes, restriction. So it is the first part of the speech. I don't think I can make the rest of this speech before I get back from Iran. But in the next speech, I want to talk about Abraham. What is it said about him, and what he introduced us, and is it true whom he is introduced as, and if not, what story is to say. Surely it was not only to tell a big lie, I don't think, that was the meaning. By stealing a prophecy from one prophet and give it to another, and so on. So it is what that in the next speech we talk about, and we will see what is Abrahamism more closer. It was all for this time. Thank you for listening to me.